Hi, everyone. It's Norman Koshnek here with Reg Verdon. He's putting himself down as aka Banstead Boy.
Change the title.
I'm at home. How are you? You've got a nice backdrop there. You've got kind of a regal backdrop, is the way I would describe it.
I've relocated in the mansion down to the living room, and that way I can watch you, my tablet for the questions, and the telly, which is right over the top of me here, because England are absolutely smashing it at the moment.
Well, they certainly weren't smashing anything early. There was some very good bowling. In fact, there was a second slip catch that was, it was a difficult one, but they did drop. I think it was Salt. Was it Salt? No, it was actually Vince. It was Vince who was dropped.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, there could have been three down for virtually nothing.
But since then, Mr. Salt, who is embracing his chance, I will guess, is 52 or 42. Vince 46 or 35. 101 for 2 in the 14th. And they're smashing everything. There's another
Harris Ralph is bowling. What do you think of Harris Ralph?
He's bowling short and wide, and he's getting plonked everywhere. Vince has just got his 50 or 30 something balls.
But I'm just saying, Ralph is. I think he's got a lot more going for him than what we're seeing here today. Oh, they're having a field day. You are right. But
I don't like his delivery stride. Norman, I think he needs to work a little bit. He seems to come in and sort of almost hop, skip, and a jump to his delivery, which
that's the way he's bowling. That's his bowling. That's his bowling.
Yeah, I know, and you said he was uncoached, which I understand. It's just that I wonder if he could get even more out of his action if he just worked on that a little bit on his delivery stride.
He's still getting 150 Ks though for some of these deliveries.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. A good comment from Bahram. Hi, Bahram. Nice to chat to you, my friend. England is rubbing salt. Very good.
Into Harris Ralph's wounds.
Into the Pakistani wound. It's always pretty horrible when you get the two guys who got 50 and batted brilliantly the other day out for nothing each, 0-0, and then two others come in and smash it everywhere. There's good depth England at the moment in English certainly one day cricket.
Make sure my Wi-Fi is turned on. That's all.
Oh, you've gone dark, Norman. You look better in the dark.
No, because I was just checking on the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi is important. You need to have that turned on my phone because we've got the Wi-Fi. Is it okay? Because when the Wi-Fi is off, my reception can go a bit skew with. So Sydney's going through one hell of a problem where our so-called cases are starting to really skyrocket. Well, 50 a day, which is not skyrocketing, but it's certainly up there. And we're not getting them down. We're getting in my local hospital, Prince Wales, here in Sydney, in Randwick, which I could throw a stone to. It's not pretty close. Had no COVID cases of the entire COVID period, yet now has got 20 and there are cases in their ICU, which from nothing for close to 18 months, Reg, to 20 overnight is kind of a bit of a shock, isn't it? I hate to say that. So you're saying in the luxury, you're showing love heart in the luxury.
Well, she's lovely, Norman.
All right. But more importantly, I woke up this morning watching Australia. What looked like they were cruising, especially when Mozon Reeks hit 2 sixes in the first 2 balls he faced, and Mitchell Stark.
What a start, Norman, to a bowling spell. Have you ever seen a start like that? Wicket 6-6.
No.
They're his first 3 balls, that guy.
But then also Mitchell Marsh, who I normally haven't got much time for. I'm still a bit perplexed why he was batting number 3, because that's not where he bats in any game I've ever seen him. It was his first time, as a matter of fact. Did admirably with his 50, but then 6 for 19 all out, and West Indies won. Now, you were talking about them being all over 50. I don't think their bowling attack was over 50 at all. I mean, they bowled particularly well. In fact, they gave Australia a nice old smacking, as a matter of fact.
the Aussies were they needed 37 of the last 10 overs with 6 wickets in hand, and it was delightful to watch. It was just a fantastic bit of highlights to see the Aussies choke.
Well, I just reiterate my disappointment with the team as a whole. It's a makeshift lineup. Look, Dan Christian, I can't put any real blame on him. He batted so low in the order, you couldn't expect him to be the winner. But their batting lineup.
Oh, hold on, Norman. Hold your horses. Hold your horses. When Dan Christian came into bat, what they need 3.5 and over, 3.5 and over.
Yeah, but he was one of a truckload of players that also he wasn't alone. It wasn't.
Yeah, but he had a big moo in it and got called to a thick inside edge at mid-on, didn't he? Similar,
Yeah, he did.
I think.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, when you need 3.5 and over, come on.
No, but okay.
Come on, you push it around for 5 overs and see how many you need off the last 3, don't you?
All I'm saying is you can't blame him on his own. There's a lot more to that than what was sort of saying. I'm just saying that he was certainly a part of the problem, but he wasn't the problem.
Yeah, but if you can't recognise that he's a senior player, he's 38 years of age, he's played around the world, he's got to be better than that.
That's a fair point.
Hello, Norman.
Hello, Naresh.
Hello, Naresh.
Hi.
Have you met Reg? Have you?
No. Nice to see
No,
you,
this
my
is the
friend.
first time getting on the show.
Okay, well, Reg is Chris Vernon's father. Naresh has been on many commentary boxes with me, and he's part of what I didn't realise for some time. We're part of the so-called Bharat Army, and we actually have somebody from the Barmy Army due to actually join. In fact, there's a fair chance we could have the head honcho of the Barmy Army joining us. Excellent. I've actually been speaking to them, so we'll wait and see. They may be a bit later on the track. So welcome, Naresh. We're watching.
Thank you.
Pakistan in England, and I just now that you're on, we might as well quickly mention the very fact that it's quite distressing about the Sri Lankan team. I actually have been messaging because I'm friends with the fellow who was actually who's positive. He is he is the Nujla Niroshan. He has been the Sri Lankan so-called video, what's the term for a video strategist for the team for some time. Analyst, strategist, yeah. He has been in that role for probably, oh my God, on and off for 10, 15, 20 years. And I know the fellow. And I messaged him on, of all places, Facebook Messenger. And I said, are you? And he goes, yes, I am. And he mentioned something about him being positive. So he was the reason, as well as, I believe,
Grant Flower, Norman.
Grant Flower as well.
Positive.
But I'm afraid those two guys are too close to the team, and the whole team are. But they're only delaying the match, postponing the series some
5 days.
5 days.
5 days. Yeah.
What they've done is they've picked 2 separate squads of players, and they're isolating them. One set in Colombo, I think, and one in Dambulla, completely separate from each other. 2 separate squads, so that they can get the series in.
Incredible, really.
You wouldn't have thought they had enough players to do that.
No. Does that mean Niroshan Dickwell is back in the squad?
I guess.
You think he would?
We really don't know.
They've changed the captain.
What's going on. Yeah. They changed the captain. And today was an official announcement of the date. Otherwise, till yesterday here in India, we were told that's just a 4-day. They are moving it by 4 days, but now it is 5 days, and 18th is when the first ODI is played. But the squad probably again we'll have to wait till Sri Lanka announces their squad.
That's right. Yeah. It's becoming a. I don't want to say it's a mess. I'm describing it as a bit of a mess. But I'm saying that we've got.
James Vince, it's just smashed one over extra cover. England are absolutely smashing it here.
Off Shaquille. the left arm spinner.
Yeah. Norman,
it's,
say hello to FS, one of your subscribers, Norman.
Yeah.
I've got to admit that I'm in the dark here as to what Arjuna Rangatunga said. But I know you know. Can you enlighten me? What he?
Okay. Well, he's basically got a thing. He's got a beans bomb for the Sri Lankan cricket board for years. It's not just this incident, but his whole discussion around the insult, as he calls it, for the Sri Lankan cricket board to agree to the series against India, against a team that's supposedly second or third string, and that Sri Lanka are bowing to India's wishes, regardless of the fact that it's not their strongest team, which is a load of crap for a couple of reasons. First of all, we haven't even played against them yet, so he has nothing to say about that in terms of the quality of the players. The second is his team is below par. He can comment about it after. If Sri Lanka smashes the Indian side, then he can comment that the team's below par. But if Sri Lanka get thrashed by India, it's even more embarrassing to be talking about how below par the Indian team is. That's an insult. It's a bizarre, don't you think, Naresh? Wouldn't you say it's bizarre? He considers no dignity in disgrace. He runs down the Sri Lankan cricket board every chance he gets. And why? Because he's not on the Sri Lankan cricket board. Now, he was in the position some years ago and did a good job. He got ousted politically for whatever reason. Okay, fair enough. But he's lingering with his harbouring this hatred for them and using any excuse to come out in the public. He knows he'll get an audience, and he thinks it's a way of undermining them so he can get somehow back into power. And it's disgraceful. I'm embarrassed by it.
I think he was just taking a dig on the Sri Lankan board, It was uncalled for, because even in India, when the squad was announced, India called it a white ball squad. India never called it a B string or a three, And the clarification that the Sri Lankan board gave was correct, that 14 out of the 20 from this squad have already played international cricket for India. So there is no way it is a B string side, and it is up to India who are the players they want to send. Once you agree to send a national team, it is purely up to the Indian selectors decide. And in the current scenario, if you see, most of the teams are having two squads. There are nearly 22 players in England for Test side. This is another 20 players gone for Sri Lanka white ball. England,
So
you see, overnight they had to get a team together.
Pakistan insulted because they're playing against the secondary England ODI side because of COVID? No. I mean, you don't see the Pakistani hierarchy coming out, or Wasim Akram or someone coming out in the press and making a garbage comment. That just shows how stupid the thing is. And I'm actually...
And also, Norman, are they slightly missing the point in that if they want to have some cricket in Sri Lanka at the moment, in preparation for the T20 World Cup. Aussies are in the West Indies, Pakistan are in England, South Africa have just played in the West Indies, Bangladesh are playing Zimbabwe. There's not a lot of options for them to have got a side over there, is there? So surely some cricket is better than no cricket, and let's face it, what's better for them, to get absolutely hammered by a full-strength India side, or to maybe have a more competitive game and could practice and get a bit of confidence against what is an India B team, if you like. Surely that's got to be better than nothing.
You don't make that comment until you play them and you thrash them. If Sri Lanka were to beat this Indian side and give them a shellacking, then he might say, well, this is embarrassing to get a substandard team. But if you're going to be beaten by this Indian side, I would keep your mouth shut. Okay, I'm really annoyed by the comment. The more I think about it, the more insulting it is for him to open his big mouth and for his own. Sorry, I've got no time for it. I think it's disgraceful. I've spoken of a fair degree of Sri Lankans there's a fair few ex-players that I know that I've spoken to. They'll lift their eyebrows to it because it's just an old man arguing.
Yeah, and Norman, they had a very bad white ball series against England recently. Just last week, they've returned back. They have to go through the World Cup qualifiers. They haven't qualified. So the more the teams they get to play competitive cricket, the better it is. This tour is going to benefit Sri Lanka, not India.
There's no doubt about that. And I think Akash Chopra summed it up beautifully. His reply was, being an ex-player himself, he said, "Well, then how come Afghanistan are qualified and Sri Lanka haven't? Where does that put Sri Lanka?" I mean, you don't hear a side like Afghanistan complain. You don't hear a side like Pakistan complain, or even Bangladesh to an extent. But Sri Lanka, through their ex-players, is actually insulting his own team, not his own board.
Yeah.
And it's just a political game. That's simply what it is. There's no fear. That's what it's about. And it's quite... Salt's got out, you're right. I just think Phil Salt's got out for 60. Bowled Shaquille.
Just missed a straight one.
I think this is going to be a lot closer. Why are there more people sitting in front of the Gazette Cup? Why are there more people sitting in front of the in the seating? I know they got the black signboard there. Why aren't there more people sitting in front? Is it? I thought they
don't know.
Play.
There's some social distancing, obviously, in the members. And
that's
whether
what you think it is.
I don't know. There's a big crowd in there. When you look around, I know it looks empty when you're looking down the ground there. But I'm telling you now, there's a big crowd in there today. In answer to Sumath on the questions, Norman, I don't think England will score 350 here. Unless Stokes gets a big one, I think England will probably only get 250, 275. They've got a lot of inexperienced players coming in lower down the order after Stokes.
But you've got to give Pakistan a bit of a fighting chance here, because it's not like it's impossible for, as you said, the Lords is a bit of a bogey ground for England.
In tests, we don't do so badly in the one days there. Test matches we don't do.
Right. Well, there we can see the crowd there. I love Lords. I mean, Naresh, have you been to Lords?
Yes, I have. Yeah, a couple of times.
Tell me about
that. Way back, first was way back in 1988. There was, rather, I went for the tour and there was an Ashes game going on. I think it was the Steve Waugh 100, the last one, the last day of the test.
89? Was it 89?
89, yeah. 89, yeah.
I was there in 89 too.
Yeah, and then recently, 2017, I visited UK for the India-Pakistan Champions League, the league game, not the final, the league game, and visited Lords again. 2019 World Cup, I was part of the volunteer team for Manchester. So 1 month I was based out of Manchester. It started with India-Pakistan.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Was it cold and wet, Naresh?
From a Barmy Army? Sorry, what did you say?
I said, was it cold and wet? It's Manchester. It's always cold and wet.
It was really bad. Rather, my trip started off so bad because it was raining heavily here in Mumbai, from where I took the flight. So I landed a day late because I missed the connection. Then, if you remember, the India-New Zealand League game got washed out because of rain. And then the next 3 days was the much-awaited India-Pakistan game, because I had to go to Manchester in those 3 days. It was raining throughout until Saturday evening, late evening, when the sun came out, and but it was very festive. The Saturday evening, the day before the game, there was, because I was also part of the entire organizing at the city center, where there were, kids were coming in. Yeah, all those stuff was going on. And then, next day.
Sorry, go ahead. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so luckily next day, morning there was no rain, and that's the reason Pakistan decided to bowl first, because of overcast conditions. And that's the only time Pakistan has bowled after winning the toss in an ICC tournament against India. Otherwise, whichever team wins the toss bats first. And it backfired, unfortunately, but it was more to do with conditions, because there was rain expected during the day also.
So just quickly, I just saw a segue to Ben Stokes getting a cap. Was it before this match? What did you get the cap for being captain?
No, 100 one-day internationals.
Of course. My apologies.
And he was extremely low-key about it on the interview. he said, well, if you just play for a period of time, these accolades just come along, which was a very humble way of saying you just got 100 caps.
Look, and I'm not downplaying it either, but he's at such a standard. Playing 100 matches, it doesn't necessarily stand out that much. 100 tests in Test cricket, yes, there's a longer protracted achievement. 100 ODIs, quite frankly, they go 300-400, don't they? If they've played a long career.
Yeah.
Some of the Indian and Sri Lankan and I think even Pakistani players have gone 400, haven't they? Although I've noticed a lot of the other countries are not playing as many ODIs as they used to. There seems to be a push towards T20s. Yeah. Would you agree? The sheer number of ODIs per year, I think, has dropped.
Yeah, I think the T20 is starting to take over as much, especially in a World Cup year. Everyone wants to play an amount of games, don't they?
I'm also looking at the new stands next to the JP Morgan Media Centre. The two stands, they have a similar bubble look, don't they, to the actual... It's very clever. And they've got little corporates in the middle there. I'm very impressed with that. Yeah. They designed that very, very nicely.
It looks very nice, yeah.
Naresh, just as you came on today, you interrupted, I hate to say this, and don't think you're being rude, you interrupted a very enjoyable conversation about Australians getting stuck by the West Indies over 50s yesterday. So
I was just about to say that West Indies is going to be the best prepared team for the World Cup. The amount of T20 they are playing built up to the World Cup.
It's certainly the oldest, that's for sure.
Hang on a minute. Now, you're having a go at West Indies. They just beat Australia. We should be talking how badly Australia is, not about the West Indies being terrible. Andre Russell scored a magnificent 50 in the innings with a 6.
He hit one of them 103 metres. It was absolutely massive. Very good. And Stokes has just hit one out the ground here as well. Ben Stokes has just hit a ball 6.
I didn't actually realise that Stark and Hazelwood... This is how embarrassed I am about not knowing about how Australia is. Stark and Hazelwood are actually in the West Indies. I had no idea. I actually thought they weren't there.
Here's a question for you, Norman. How many 2020 games has Hazelwood played for Australia?
Not many, I'm assuming.
Guess.
Yeah, not many.
Have a guess, Norman.
I'm going to say 50.
10.
What?
That was his 10th game last night.
Yeah, I mean, look, he didn't bowl badly at all, but I don't think they quite know what they're doing. To me...
Hold on. He didn't bowl badly. 3 overs, 2 for 3 at one stage. He over 3 singles his first 3 overs.
They lost the game. It means nothing in the end.
Well, that's because they're picking old idiots like Dan Christian. He's 48, isn't he, or something? He's been around since 1952.
Are you knocking the West Indians or the Australians? You're talking about age, you're talking about the West Indians.
Well, I think they only picked Dan Christian, so they had someone of equal age to talk with after the West Indian side. So they knew someone as a contemporary of their age range.
I tell you what, Pooran was he captained well, I thought. I thought he made some good bowling decisions. The leg spinner there, his nickname Junior. What's his name again? I've forgotten his name already.
Hayden Walsh.
Hayden Walsh Junior. Hayden Walsh Junior.
You should ask Chris when Chris is next on. Hayden Walsh played for 2 seasons. Was at school with Chris for 2 years. They had. If you remember, Munchie was talking about lashings the other day. The celebrity side. Their multi-millionaire owner went to Chris's school, which is Sutton Valence School in Kent, and they had for about a 10-year period I was going to say an exchange scheme. It wasn't quite like that. The school offered a scholarship to a promising up-and-coming West Indian cricketer to come over and go to school in England for 2 years and to obviously play cricket for the school. And Hayden Walsh was one of those So I know
he's
him.
obviously a pretty good player then.
Yeah, I know him. I would so I know him pretty well as well. He's certainly stayed in my house and come over many a time. He's about the same age as Chris. I think he's 29, same as Chris. And he played for quite a few games at Teddington Cricket Club, which is where Chris was playing in those days as well. He bowled leggy, as we know. Bowls leggy, and he bats.
His Ryan was particularly good, and he apparently early in the year he suffered from COVID, didn't he?
Yeah, he said on an interview that he blames himself for picking COVID up. I don't know how you can blame yourself for picking it up. He said, I was silly and I got COVID in Bangladesh, I think he said, maybe. And he struggled a bit for form, so he said he was just pleased to come back into the side. He bowled well, didn't he?
He bowled particularly well. I mean, he was arguably the difference, wasn't he, Rash?
Yeah, and Ubaid the McCoy, who was bowling a lot of slower ones, and if you see his slower ones are like a leg spinner because he's bowling from behind the arm, behind the wrist. You know, he's a left arm pacer, but he was bowling from behind the wrist.
The top or the back? Is he coming? Oh, let me see this. Is he coming top, here, or is he coming it out the?
Out top, yeah.
Because it comes out, the seam comes straight, doesn't it? I was watching it.
Yeah, it's like a loop. It's some sort of
brilliant.
Yeah,
that is a brilliant serve. You can't spot it at all. And he's a big boy too. So to bowl a slower ball like that, yeah.
But Norman, any reason Mitch Marsh is not bowling? He batted at number 3, but he never bowled.
He's had, I think, a lower stress factors of his back. I think he's staying away from bowling for that reason, to be honest. So it's more of it's chronic. Not unlike what I would call Archer's injuries. They're chronic. They're not going to go away.
Yeah, because he got injured first even in the last IPL in UAE. It's now nearing a year, you know. Last IPL in September in UAE, he had to leave the Hyderabad side because of injury after 3 games. So he hasn't played much.
He's still on the Australian side. I mean, he scored 50 last night, but I'm a bit amazed. He's certainly not a first drop batsman. And obviously they haven't got the likes of Warner and Smith and that it would probably be in the side. So Maxwell, of course. Mitchell Marsh will not make the final T20 side that will play for the World Cup.
The next Australian captain was playing, though, I noticed, Norman.
Aaron Finch.
Yeah.
Aaron Finch said something rather frustrating after the match. He sounded almost blasé about the loss. Oh, it's no big deal. If Australia come back and win 3 or 4-1, then he's got a right to be that way. But if they don't, he's going to eat his words. He seemed to be very haphazard. Who have we got out there? Someone else just got out. They're 134.
Yeah, Vince got done by Googly. So this is interesting. This is now John Simpson coming into bat. I think he's 32 years old. Plays for Middlesex. He's a keeper. Keeper batter. It is, but as the other day, I mean, what an opportunity. When you get to 32 and there's Butler and Bearso and Folks in front of you, you're not thinking of getting any sort of recognition at all for your country. You're just finishing up your career playing county first-class cricket.
He's been given a dream ambition to play for his country. He's just got it.
It's just awesome. I have so much goods jealousy. Is that what you say? Because I would have loved to have represented my country. Apart from that, I was rubbish. But these guys always have a dream when they're a kid, and then it must fade.
Even if it is for one series, even if it is for a few games, it doesn't matter, does it?
No, it's just he's got a cap for his country. That's awesome. Oh gosh, Naresh? Would you love to have an Indian cap?
Obviously, I mean, you know, one who plays the game.
Just one wouldn't matter, would it?
It'd be amazing. It'd be amazing.
Yeah, I just think that it's
nearly a full house. Nearly a full house in Lords. They're playing in front of, you know, and Pakistan is a good white ball side. Undoubtedly, it's a good side.
It's just they're playing better today. The bowling's better. Is good. Although I've got to be honest, they're bowled a bit short and wide. They might get away with that in the UAE a little bit because the wickets are a little deader and a bit slower. on a quicker, bouncier track in England. I mean, if India bowl, they won't. If India were to bowl like this in the Test series, India will go round the park. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Just quickly go back to Barami Irani's comment. Only thing about he doesn't like about cricket is the toss becoming a big factor in games. What do you think of that?
Well, it's always been a big factor in games, isn't it? When's it ever changed? Crikey, think how big a toss it was in uncovered wickets. Well, I didn't used to cover the wickets, and you knew the sun was out in the first day and it was going to pour down for 2 days. You get in batting first. Sides used to declare like on 190 for 7 to try and get the opposition in, didn't they? In the old days, because they knew it was raining and the conditions were really bad. The toss has always been vital.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a new thing, isn't it?
But how else could you do it, Norman? What else could you do? Because
flip the bat. I mean, it's still a toss, isn't it? Yeah, no, I don't.
Yeah, but you can't alternate it. You can't say we will alternate who bats first, because then you just get loads of grounds being doctored because you know that you're coming today and you're going to be bowling, so we'll leave it green.
I'm by no means saying that I'm against it. Of course I'm not. It's a part of the game. That's the way we live with it.
It's how it's been. It's traditional. It's going to be a drastic change to bring to the tradition of the game on how it has been played.
Absolutely. And why change? There's some traditions you don't change. That's for sure.
I just don't know what the solution would be, Norman. I don't know how they could change that to make it any different. It's the luck of the toss.
No, I think it's part of the game. It's there to stay. Unless it's a World Cup final between Sri Lanka and India, and they stuff up the toss once and they redo it again. And then you have text messages hitting certain people's phones in that morning saying there's going to be 2 tosses, which implies that people knew what was going to happen. That's something rather dramatic. Did you hear about that? So
yeah.
that was a
2011 World Cup final. Yeah.
Now it was well documented that they're aware there were going to be 2 tosses in a text message that circulated, and it actually happened, which is rather strange. All right, answer this question, guys. Read this one out. Can you?
Okay.
Will the practice game against the select county to be decided to be the deciding factor for the bowling combination at Trent Bridge? How do you expect the England preparations to be? That is for the Indian team preparing for the Test match
in the England-India series.
Yeah.
I actually think that practice matches don't necessarily decide a team. I think they know the team before they have a practice match, to be honest with you, because we really can't take the form of a practice match into consideration because we know that it's not real. That both teams are playing, but it's not really true conditions. Would you agree with that?
I'll answer the second, Tom.
Sorry?
I think that playing against a county side have they said it's going to be a select? Did you say a select county side?
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Have they said what that means? Because it's going to be in the middle of the 100, and also the blast competition, or there's another competition, 1-day competition going on at the same time. So the county stars have been picked for the 100, the main guys. There's another competition going on alongside that at the same time for the counties, because the 100 isn't the counties, it's a franchise. Who's going to be about to play against India in a warm-up game?
I just don't go by that type of form. It's just, I'm telling you, it's going to be ludicrous to think that you wouldn't be a selector saying, "Oh, that's the player I want in my team." I don't think that would be the case. I think
that won't be the case.
They're picked by that stage, or their decision's not based on that game.
Yeah, I mean, India pretty much.
She's asking, what's your favourite shot?
I just answered her on the message. I used to hit it over the top.
Well, you can answer the message. Answer us online on TV.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt. I was left-hander like Chris, and but I used to like to hit the opening bowlers back over their head if I could. If they pitched up, it would go straight back over them. because there's nothing better than seeing a fast bowler's face, or an opening bowler's face when that ball's gone straight back over his head. You knew the next one wasn't going to be in your half, so you could set yourself up pretty much for the cut or the pull, couldn't you?
Unless that bowler was clever enough to know that was what you were expecting, and the bowler good length delivery and beat you.
Yeah, but of the 15,000 bowlers I faced in my time, Norman, only 3 of them had half a brain cell. So, yeah.
That's true. That's true. All right.
So India are going to have pre-selected pretty much their side anyway, because they did it for the World Cup final, the World Test Championship final, which was ridiculously silly. So I assume that they've already penciled in 11 of 12, haven't they? The only one slot up for grabs is going to be Ishan or Siraj. Have I not got that right?
I think that's right. I think that is right. So you're saying the only change will be that between those two?
Well, I don't think that's the right thing to do. I've just said that's because if they were, and I'll use the word arrogant, but I don't want to upset, or if they were silly enough to announce the World Cup, the World Test Championship final side 2 or 3 days out from a game when the weather was bad and the conditions were bad, and you don't wait to announce your side until you've looked to see what the pitch looks like and the weather's doing in England, then they're not going to change much, are they, for the first test at Trent Bridge? They're just not. Playing 2 spinners is daft in the World Test Challenge. I'll say it all week, and I'll say it again. Why? I know they had to balance their side. I know that they had a problem to balance it.
They were lacking an all-rounder. And
Jadeja took a wicket, I think, but he was an afterthought bowler. When they needed
Jadeja was picked really as a batter.
Yeah,
do you think
but when they needed their full seamer, they didn't have it. The poor old Shami was bowling over after over, and he was out on his feet, and poor old Ishant was out on his feet. They needed the full seamer. They didn't have it.
Yeah, and I feel Jadeja was a bit underutilized in the Test match. And I think what didn't work for India was Bumrah didn't seem to be at his best. That I think that's what put the pressure on Shami especially. And Shami was doing very well. Both the innings he bowled very well. Ishant Sharma in the second inning didn't look like the Ishant Sharma the way he bowls. So that is where I felt that Jadeja could have been bowled a little more. Even in the first inning, both Ashwin was gotten early, but Jadeja was gotten very late. So for this first test, I feel Mayank Agarwal is coming in because Gill is injured. That's a forced replacement happening. I feel Siraj may come in for Jadeja, and Ishant would get in another go at least for a couple of test matches. He may not play all the 5, but I think the first couple of test matches we may see Ishant play, and then Siraj comes in as the 4th seamer.
They've got to pitch it up.
I think that's pretty sound discussion. Yeah.
They've got to pitch it up more. They were just a bit too short, and I understand it's difficult. It took Chris Broad, listen to me getting old. It took Stuart Broad years to work out in a way that the length here is better when you pitch it up that extra half a yard. But Neeraj, we were talking yesterday that can India really go in with Pant at 5? Is it Pant at 5, Ashwin at 6, and then you force 4 seamers or 5? That tail will be very long if it's Ishant, Siraj, Bumrah, and Shami. They can't do that, surely.
When you say 4 seamers, you mean a spinner and 4 seamers?
Yeah, well, Ashwin plays, doesn't he? Ashwin's one of the best bowlers in the world.
Ashwin plays at 7. Yeah, Ashwin plays at 7, Pant at 6, and then the 5 batsmen. Yeah.
Yeah, so that actually does make sense.
They're leaving themselves a batter short. They need Hardik in there. I know he's not here, and I know that Gil vehemently disagrees with me. They need an all-rounder. They need a Ben Stokes. I know Ben Stokes is one off, but their balance. You go in with Ashwin is a good bat, but he's not a special bat. He averages he's only averaging early 20s, I think, and I don't know what it is overseas, but I bet it's lower than his Indian average. And all of a sudden, if Ashwin's at 7, crumbs. I think that they are seriously leaving because let's face it, in England, you could easily lose 2 wickets early doors. I mean, it's not unusual. So they could be 35 for 2, and then you're looking at Ashwin coming in at 7. That's putting a lot of pressure.
They really need Hardik Pandya to come back.
They do. Or they need someone. Thakur bats, doesn't he?
Yeah, he could be the choice. I think he'll come into play. At some stage, Shardul Thakur will come into play.
Yeah, so maybe as you mentioned that Ishant may make way for Siraj, and then Shardul Thakur comes in for Jadeja. So then you have 4 seamers and a spinner, and you bat up to 8. That possibility is also there. Yeah, and Shardul Thakur needs to be groomed. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Jadeja. I think everyone in England watches Jadeja and thinks he's a fantastic cricketer. I mean, he's fantastic to look at too. Crikey, I bet the girls love him, don't they? He's fantastic. He's smart, isn't he? He's brilliant, and he's
Jadeja. You're saying Jadeja?
Yeah. I mean, he is a seriously dapper man, isn't he? And I think he's a fantastic cricketer, but. We're talking cricket here, and we're talking cricket in England. And as I said to you yesterday, they always say you don't look down in England, you look up. And you have to look at the weather conditions here. If it's bright and sunny, the cloud sky, it's going to play completely different to if it's overcast. And if it's overcast on that first day at Trent Bridge and the forecast is for a bit of a grade test, you 2 spinners, you're going to get in trouble.
To me, this series is going to be the making of. When I say the making of Kohli, Rahane, Rohit Sharma, and the like, it's the making of them. Why I say that they've all been great players. We know that from their history, but this is going to be a set of circumstances where they're playing 5 Test matches against England at home, and this is their day of reckoning. They've had a great series of events both at home and against Australia. They're now at the top of the game, aren't they, in Test cricket? They are
but Norman, hold on. They did not have a great home Test series against England. I'm really sorry. They lost the first Test, and their batting did not perform for the whole series. Their bowling was good.
Hang on, you let me finish. I'm talking about, but despite that, the batters didn't play that well.
They didn't.
The Rahanes, the Kohlis, and the Sharmas, that nucleus of the leadership group, including Pujara for that matter, didn't perform that well. The team in general have played well. Okay, I'm talking generally, but this is it's time that Kohli returns to some form.
Yeah,
scoring centuries, and Sharma, and Pujara, and to an extent Rahane. This is their chance to really do that because they have got a few question marks floating around. There's a few question marks. And if they fail miserably, they can't use excuses. It's time. They're going to be there for long enough. They're not going to. There's not going to be no COVID issues because they'll be there for long enough. So there may be COVID issues. We don't know. But I mean, in general, they're going to be in a situation where they're going to be. It's their day of reckoning, is my opinion.
Yeah, no, Norman, it's 3-4-5. India's 3-4-5 is going to be very, very critical if India has to do well in this series, because Rohit Sharma made his Test debut as an opener against Australia, and in England, that the final was the first Test he played as an opener. So Rohit Sharma, you can consider, needs to be given the long rope of playing all the Test matches and proving himself, but definitely make or break for him at the end of the series. But 3, 4, and 5 is going to be the main, decisive factor for Indian cricket in Tests going ahead. That's Pujara, Kohli, and Rahane because of their experience.
Yeah.
There's an expectation that they're going to take a stranglehold of this series at some stage. You would imagine early, in particular. And if they don't, then the question marks start to fall on their heads very squarely, and including the home series against New Zealand after it. they're going to have to start to prove themselves. Look, Virat Kohli's been absolutely fantastic for a long, long time. Okay, he has done very well. But, there's some question marks. Just by the way, I'm a little bit smug because I'm watching the cricket with a corner of my eye, but another corner of my eye is on Ash Barty's up 4-0 in the final at Wimbledon.
Okay.
Against Pliskova. Pliskova's got like a deer with headlights. The poor thing. She's about 7 foot tall with tattoos. Obviously a good player. She made a win on the final, but she's down for love.
I haven't seen. I don't know what she looks like. It's hard.
Pliskova's about your typical. I'm not sure. I don't even know whether she's Russian or Czech or what she is, but she's your typical, monolith of a girl. She's huge. But Barty's about 5 foot nothing, and you know the story, don't you? Ash Barty is actually part Aboriginal. The last time a woman won the Wimbledon title back in 1980, in fact, was Yvonne Goolagong, who was also part Aboriginal, if not full Aboriginal. And she's wearing clothing today. This is what Ash Barty's wearing, clothing, which is an exact replica of the clothing that was worn by Yvonne Goolagong 41 years ago. It's quite a monumental moment, actually.
Yeah, I've just turned it on. I think that's brilliant. Aussies are proud of their Aboriginal roots, Norman, are they? It's something I don't know a lot about.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in terms of cricket, we haven't had that many cricketing legends, especially in the last 50 plus years. But back in the 1800s, the very first team that toured England was a total Aboriginal side. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. I know.
Sorry?
I know they've had a team over here recently, the Aboriginals and their Aboriginal side toured in England.
But I'm just saying the very first team to travel from Australia to England was not your Anglo-Saxons, I'm sorry. It was actually a total bunch of native Aboriginal players that were particularly good that toured. Can you believe that? It's quite remarkable when you think about it, because it hasn't really been replicated since. But that's in rugby league, not rugby union, but rugby league. We have phenomenal Aboriginals that are playing rugby league. Aussie rules, yes. And of course, we had Kathy Freeman, who won the 400-metre gold medal in 2000 in Sydney. He's Aboriginal. So, and Ash Barty's part Aboriginal. So it's quite a we're very, very proud of that, actually. And it's not just tokenism, it's real.
Norman, Vasinth Narain has just put a question up on the screen, showing he's got absolutely no idea about cricket at all. I'm surprised he's watching a cricket show. So what he's suggesting is that England drop two out-and-out batsmen, and bring in 3 bowling all-rounders. I mean, no sense. Well, Wokes, Robinson, and Curran are bowling all-rounders. Lower order batting,
but Lawrence and Ollie Pope I still maintain that Lawrence and Ollie Pope have not really shown to me that they're worthy of their positions.
But they're batters, Norman. If you're going to replace them, you're not going to replace them with a bowling all-rounder, are you? You'll end up with 7 or 8 bowlers in your side.
Yeah, but
you're going to replace them with a batter, surely.
Look at the Australian side last night, for example, or this morning, my time. Who did they have? They had Dan Christian, they had Moses Enriques, they had and Mitchell Moses, who really is a bowling all-rounder, not a batting all-rounder.
We're talking test match here. We're talking a test match. And
any format, I'm saying. But anyway.
Yeah. But Ollie Pope is the best young player we've got in the country. Although he's injured.
You keep saying that, but he hasn't produced it at the national level, though. He hasn't produced the national level yet.
He will do. But he's doubtful for the first test, Norman. He sustained an injury last week, and he is definitely out of all cricket, and he's trying to be fit for the first test. Now, whether England will pick a player who hasn't played for maybe 4 weeks to come in straight into the test match, I don't know. That would be an interesting call.
So, Naresh, what's the words like in India at the moment? What's their main focus? Are they, because now the Sri Lanka Indian series has been, you could argue, delayed a little bit. What's their focus? Are Indians watching Australia versus the West Indies with great interest, and England Pakistan with great interest, or do they not? What's your thoughts?
It's see, like as I follow the game, I would adjust my timings to watch the game. West Indies, Australia, or rather, even when South Africa played West Indies, the time zone difference is really very uncomfortable. It's way past midnight. That's why there is no telecast on television. I'm watching it streaming on a platform. So whereas England Pakistan, I'm watching it live on television. But what was of interest yesterday was the women's T20 England India. People watched that and followed that a lot.
It's a great
I,
And
catch.
I
Just
watched
taking the
it. I
boundaries and
watched
all
it as
that.
well.
yeah, couple of catches. Rather, overall, the fielding of both the sides was
Oh, what a
phenomenal.
catch! What a catch!
Yeah.
I tell you what, the skill levels. Can you imagine me or you, Norman, doing that? Would there be an earthquake down in China somewhere if I dived onto the field like that and took a catch?
Are you talking about the women's catch?
Yeah, did you see it?
Yeah, it was just amazing. It was, and I
Yeah.
couldn't believe the reaction of their team. Not only did the players come up and support it, the players not on the field come over and congratulate, which is rather hilarious. You don't often see players not on the
It's
field
like
come on the field to celebrate a catch.
it's
Not
like in
normally what
football,
you
you
do.
score a goal. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a little bit funny. That was a little bit funny.
Yeah,
Yeah,
England have
but
been
for
better than India in this series generally. Won last night that with us, but I think we're in front anyway. When it rained,
That's a good point. There is the West Indies Aussie game generally is on the West Indies YouTube channel. They're doing that now, which I'm rather impressed by. They're doing that. They're allowed anyone to see it.
and there is fan code. There's Dreams 11, the part of that group. Fan
Yeah.
code. They do the streaming of West Indies, Australia. They are rather streaming a lot of county games also here in India. So
Interesting.
I watched
I mean,
the
even
highlights this
7:05
morning for free on YouTube channel.
7:05 is also live on YouTube.
In fact, the highlights were so good on YouTube of the game last night, West Indies Australia. I almost watched it twice to watch the Aussies get beaten.
I mean, because I'm so much on YouTube, because I'm doing this, I'm watching a lot more YouTube, and I'm realizing the quality of YouTube. And there's even now something called YouTube TV that could well, if that takes off even more than Apple TV, YouTube TV could be the only platform people watch TV on. It's conceivable, isn't it?
Yeah, the ads kept flashing up. That's how they're making their money, but it's annoying, Norman.
No, I appreciate that, but I just think that because of the advent of YouTube, where there's a lot of immediacy about what you see on YouTube, and you can tune in at any time, watch a whole series of things, even more than what you get on. I mean, other than even news you can get, there's not a lot that you can't get on YouTube these days.
Yeah.
It's quite an intriguing development, actually. I'm quite shocked.
Yeah.
But, all right. So let's go back to, Naresh, you're saying that time zones are the killer for some games of cricket.
Especially games going on in West Indies. Obviously, currently the football season is going on. Like tomorrow, it's a packed day. For India, early morning 5:30, you have the Copa America final, Brazil, Argentina. They are very popular football sides in India. Then you have Wimbledon finals. You have the women's second T20. You have the Australia West Indies.
Come on, Naresh. Come on, get there. You've missed the big one. Come on.
Yeah, Australia West Indies is a big one.
No. I've got to ask you a question, Naresh. Is it coming home?
The England versus Italy.
Is it coming home?
Wembley.
You've got to say it.
Yeah,
it's coming home.
England is winning it.
Let's just say Brazil beat Argentina. It's Argentina, correct? Brazil playing Argentina, correct?
Yeah.
Is that the two teams?
Yeah, Argentina, Brazil is playing Copa. Yeah.
So Brazil wins, let's say. Let's say England beat Italy.
Of
Do
course.
Brazil then play England?
No,
they're two different.
Why not?
Norman.
They're continent trophies.
I know that. I know what they are. I'm not that silly, guys. But I'm saying to you, wouldn't it be fun for Brazil to play England in a kind of competitive...
That's what the World Cup's for, isn't it? That'll be next year. That's the World Cup next year.
Yeah, well, then this would have been... I don't know. I see a lot of positives in doing that.
if the Italian can create an upset in the Wimbledon final, then Italy will win the Euro football also.
Don't.
And you think the Italian tennis player playing Djokovic, no hope.
Yeah,
Djokovic is
no
going
hope,
to
no.
slaughter him. Does
It
Djokovic go to
could be an interesting
Djokovic
final.
Federer, doesn't he? Sorry?
Sorry, I interrupted you. Carry on.
I was just going to say that Djokovic, if he wins, does he then equal Federer's number of Grand Slam wins? Is that right?
Yes, he equals. Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Djokovic is too good.
I don't. It annoys me because I'm not saying Djokovic is not a good player, but Federer is still the best in the world. Ever.
No, he's not won anything for a few years, Federer. He's not won a Grand Slam, I don't think, for several years, has he?
No, but he's 40 years old as well.
He's not the best in the world, is he? Djokovic is the best by miles.
He's an all-time best, world's best.
Yeah, I don't know if Djokovic beats his record, then Djokovic has to be the all-time best, isn't he? I don't know. It's difficult.
Yeah, I don't know whether I necessarily think that the sheer numbers of the most means he's the best player, because that means Bradman is the 50th best player in the world now, is he, or what? Because he's only got 6,900. So that's you can't say that about Bradman because he's got 6,996. There's someone with 10,000 scoring.
Yeah, but you're not judging the same. You're not judging like for like then, Norman, are you? Because cricket is a game where you've got batting stats, whereas tennis or golf, you're actually winning a tournament. If Bradman had won 3 tournaments in his life and someone else has won 15, Bradman wouldn't be the best player of all time, would he? So,
yeah, I don't know. I think Federer to me was the most celebrated player ever.
Yeah, he loved playing on the grass here at Wimbledon. I mean, that's for sure. He was very good here, and the crowds love him. The British crowds absolutely love Federer.
Yeah. All right, so I'm not watching
England
the game.
is struggling, Norman.
England is struggling, yeah. 160 for 7.
Yeah.
That's pretty. That's Pakistan. Look, Pakistan are not to be sneezed at. They're bowling quite well overall, I think. And now, has Ralph got any wickets? I haven't seen.
Hassan Ali's been doing some damage and a couple for the spinners.
He's some bowler. His record's incredible.
The couple of recent wickets have been got out, but apart from that, it's ultra aggressive England getting out, having a go at it. Stokes pretty much ran down the wicket and tried to hit one into the middle of Sydney, and lost his middle stump.
Can I go back to Andre Russell for a moment, please? His performance yesterday was pretty outstanding against Australia. He finished extremely well, and that ended up being where they won the game in terms of scores. Yeah. Certainly, Australia capitulated, yes, but Andre Russell is going to be some humdinger of a player when it comes to the World Cup. I tell you, he's going to be extremely important. And I keep persisting with Gale. I'm sure Gale's going to play the World Cup. Pollard was not in the team yesterday. POM was given the captaincy, but Pollard would have captained, correct? But he was injured.
Yeah, he's injured. Yeah.
All right. So
he broke his Zimmer frame apparently in the warm up, and he twisted, broke a hip or something silly like that, as old people do. So,
what's Sandy Sharma saying? Hey, Norman, what's he saying?
I don't know. Cricket boards.
Yeah, I think the cricket boards. There is a body, and I've forgotten their name. Lisa Stolake is a part of it. Actually, does a form of due diligence on all the cricket boards now. Did you know that? It's a nice to see body that sit above them. I've forgotten their initials, but they go around and they actually question players, start asking questions about what's actually going on, whether everything's au fait. They're starting to, I don't know how much weight they carry, and I believe it's a part of the ICC's instigation, but it sits above and separate. That's a great thing, because I think someone needs to pull cricket boards into line, don't they? Especially if there's a form of corruption or there's a form of mismanagement or nepotism, whatever words we want to use. I I think there's a certain level of
Norman, there's a massive argument to say that the BCCI, the ECB, and Cricket Australia are far too powerful. They're running the game for their own benefit. I'm not saying this. I'm just saying this is the argument that everything is geared towards India hold the massive power, but the ECB and Cricket Australia they're the big three, and they're pretty much. Then they're ignoring cricket to a certain extent, the rest, because South Africa have got no money, West Indies have got no money, I'm sure Sri Lanka are the same, and we will be a much poorer world if they weren't playing cricket. So they need to look after them, and they need to maybe try and spread the wealth a little bit if they can. It's just it'd be very sad, wouldn't it?
Got money or South Africans got money. When they do get money, it's mishandled. That's probably more significant than actually the fact they don't get much money. It's actually when they do get the money, they mishandle it. And that's where it's even more significant. Because, no, we can't expect every country to be exactly the same. Unless the ICC give out a budget to each one. I don't know how they would do that. Or they share somehow throughout the lower team. I think
well, there is. Norman, they have a system of sharing some percentage of money for development of the game for all the countries, including India, Australia, England, also get some share from the ICC's budget. But yes, it's all about how it is utilized, how well it makes the impact on the growth of the game within their own country. Like Sri Lanka is one example where there is a huge issue going on. And this whole argument of a B side, that's where I say that India's tour is going to benefit Sri Lanka. Not only from the quality of the game, it is also from the revenue. If they're playing all the games in Colombo, if crowds are allowed, it's going to be Sri Lanka that's going to make the money.
Okay, Sandeep Sharma's asking, mishandling of money, how? Would you like me to spend the next 4 hours telling you? I can tell you in 4 hours. Probably I only need 5 hours to tell you exactly when there's TV rights money coming through, and it doesn't go any further than certain individuals on a board and their companies. It doesn't go near the players. The players see no money at all. But that's how bad it is. It is absolute and out corruption. I'm sorry, and I'm not going to go into detail, but there's several TV rights deals where the money, 90% of it went nowhere. 90% went nowhere near team development, player development, ground development, nothing. Not a single sausage. Maybe 10% if you're lucky, and that was because they didn't get a hold of it quick enough. It is that bad. In particular, one country, which I think you probably know who that is. I've been talking about them enough. It's well documented, and it's unbelievable. And even Australia, that are. And I'm not saying that happens in Australia. I'm not saying that, but the fact that they're not a transparent group, the Australian Cricket Board or whatever, Cricket Australia, are not responsible to anyone. There's no ombudsman or anything like that goes above them to actually check what they're doing. Now, how is that right? When you agree, when you've got a board or a body that has money coming out from all the endorsements, but there's no one there to account for their money. Look what happened with soccer in the world.
Yeah, it's unusual, Norman, in anything where there's vast sums of money involved for it not to be overseen by an independent body. Certainly, I'm pretty sure that the ECB in this country are accountable to whatever they may be accountable to, because it's very transparent here. But
Australia's not. Cricket Australia are not. They're not accountable to anybody. They have not been accountable.
But here, the ECB distribute funds to the county clubs from the funds, and county cricket wouldn't exist in the smaller counties without the ECB's money. So the test venues, the test counties. So that's the rich counties. So you've got Surrey, Middlesex. I'm guessing Nottingham. Warwickshire, which is Edgbaston, where they play the cricket, Yorkshire and Lancashire, they're the rich counties. The rest of them don't survive at all on any crowds or anything they get. It's just their distribution from the ECB. And bear in mind that all the television money goes straight to ECB. It doesn't go to individual counties. So if they have a game, if you watch a game, it might be Durham versus Leicester. Durham aren't getting the money like in the football, where the clubs negotiate. Here it all goes to ECB, and ECB distribute the money and a fair, equitable system throughout all the counties. So none of the counties are. It's not graded as to how good you are. That's as I understand it. They all get an equal share of money from the coffers each year to carry on their county, which they will go under without.
Yeah, but see, in Cricket New South Wales and Cricket Victoria, and they aren't equally represented on the Cricket Australia board in any way. There's a lot of dissension about that. There's a lot of disagreement. There's a lot of separation that goes on. Cricket New South Wales will get major sponsors only for Cricket New South Wales, and Cricket New South Wales has always been a bit of the epicenter of Australian cricket anyway, and that's not necessarily, and even selection-wise, it has been. And there's a lot to be discussed about that. And don't forget, the states were always separate up until Federation anyway. It's a very bizarre situation. In Cricket Australia, I'm not an expert on their breakdown, but I know it's not correct. Even though Cricket Australia under Nick Hockley now will be managed a lot better, he being an Englishman, he will come in here and represent in a manner which is, I believe, very independent. I think it was a great move. They had James Sullivan there for 17 years. Despite the fact that Australia did very well throughout those years, they were unaccountable. That's wrong. When you have that situation, you have problems, don't you? I'm not necessarily saying corruption, but certainly mishandling or they were paying out certain people like Pat Howard $400,000 to be a high performer something or other from rugby, and everybody scratched their head what the hell he was doing. Now, that's fraud, I would argue. Giving someone a ridiculous amount of money for a job they're not even doing. You have to wonder why he was a mate of James Sullivan, I'm saying. So,
I haven't heard any grumblings in this country as to the way the ECB do it. In fact, I think that when we had the COVID shutdown last year, I think the ECB took over and they used the monies in the funds to prop up the county game and play all the county players. I think they got their contracts paid for, even though they weren't playing, or topped up, because obviously we had a furlough scheme here. And the ECB performed well. Crikey, they got the test matches on last summer, which was awesome. And thank to Pakistan and the West Indies for coming over. They did a brilliant to have cricket played during the pandemic.
New Zealand's got a great reputation for being well handled. The South African Cricket Board, I'm afraid, haven't. There was some strong discussions about the South African women players, and I don't know the exact figures. Let's say these are the figures. They were being paid $3,000 a month, and then at the end of the season, the Cricket Board realised they paid them what they believed to be $1,000 too much per month. So the next season, they didn't pay them just two; they actually paid them one to make up the $1,000 difference, and pay them at the $2,000 level. What on earth's going on there? You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. That's completely against all sorts of, financial distributions of monies. You can't do that.
So how does it work in India, Naresh? How does the BCCI support the grassroots cricket for the states?
So there are all the states. BCCI has a budget for them, but then there's so much of cricket in the country. So many. It's the most popular sport. Then the boards or the state bodies want international games to be played at those stadiums. You know how the rotation policy works. Who gets the game and international fixture? At least IPL was another way where these local state boards make good revenue. But now the other thing is happening is the capacity. You know, if you see Ahmedabad with 100,000 and compared to where I stay in Pune, 30,000, and if there's a marquee game, it would definitely be in Ahmedabad. You know, so that state body would turn out to benefit. You know, so but it's it's so much of a financial game. But yes, it is opaque. It is not transparent how the games are allocated to the state bodies to hold international fixtures. Those things are very tough to know what happens behind the scene, because it's extremely lucrative. Everyone wants to get into it, either from the administrative perspective, or ex players want to be part of the governing body currently. So all those things, it's just too much of money that comes into the game in India.
But you'd have to say Sourav Ganguly's done a fantastic job. He's well
All
respected.
states
The
have.
man's independently wealthy. He's not going to be corrupt in the way he approaches it. He's a very decent man. In fact, if anything, he's cleaned up any problems that were there. He's amazing. He's so well respected. He is such a decent.
And that's good, because, he got the right people to at the right place, especially the National Academy. He got Rahul Dravid. He ensured there's a proper management of supply chain, and you see that you are already seeing the results, the way the players are coming up. We currently have nearly 40 cricketers in England and Sri Lanka together representing the country. So that is one thing that is well streamlined. Domestic cricket is coming back from this November. There was a long 18-month gap. So the focus would be back on, and he's very focused on red ball. Ganguly is very clear on how Test cricket needs to further be strengthened in the country, and the cricketers need to play a lot of red ball cricket. So that's going to be good.
So is the ICC. I have to commend them. They are certainly giving a return to focus on that as well, aren't they, Reg?
Yeah, it's important. It's massively important. You've got to see where the game is, haven't you? You've got to see where everything is how it's being financed, because we know otherwise the game will die, won't it? Because if it's seen as corrupt, people won't watch it, will they?
No, I don't mean the corruption so much. It's just the Test cricket's been given the emphasis with the ICC, along with the BCCI. I think Australia and England have always had a focus on Test cricket, to be honest with you. I don't think they need much convincing there. But
it's interesting, Norman, from an English point of view, because we love our Test cricket here, and the crowds have never been a problem. We've never had the issue that I know that happens in India for getting crowds into the venues now for Test cricket, and other parts of the world. You don't see big crowds in New Zealand watching the Test matches. But here you do see big crowds, and you're going to see some big crowds against India. That's for sure. If they're allowed in, you're going to see the venues. I know they're not 100,000 seater venues, but you're going to see full stadiums. That's for sure.
But it's certainly full stadiums. But I'm talking more about the interest in the game beyond who's in the stadium. What I'm getting at there is that we look forward in the future to a World Test Championship, that we look forward to India versus England in 5 matches, that most countries begin to play more Test matches in a series rather than 2 or sometimes 1. I think that'll become
money,
more evident.
It's just money.
Yeah.
They don't,
I know
because
that, but I think that they're understanding that is still needed to happen. Women's cricket with Test cricket's coming back now too. So I do think that there is a clear shift. World Test Championship, women's Test cricket, 5 test matches going on between countries that may not normally have done that. It's starting to happen more. I think it's wonderful.
Do you think that by bringing in 2020 cricket and attracting a younger audience who watch the 2020s, that when those I'm going to say youngsters, but that new audience who have watched 2020 cricket become more interested in the game because they like the 2020, they then naturally gravitate towards the longer form of the game, Test
I would
cricket,
say so.
because I'm not a massive fan of 2020, Norman. I've already told you that. I love watching Test cricket. I think that is where the skills are. I know you can do a Kieran Pollard like you did last night. It's great to watch, but the real skill is when you've got Jimmy Anderson, Chris Broad, or Ishant Sharma, or Jasprit Bumrah with a new ball on an overcast green pitch, and it's zipping around, and the batsman is fighting to stay in, not score runs necessarily. That's That's what I want to watch. That's cricket for me.
But yeah, go on, Naresh. You speak first.
Yeah, so T20, T20 has made a lot of individual stars or star attractions. And you see a lot of youngsters follow those individuals as T20 players. And when they play Test cricket, yes, the crowd wants to watch them play Test cricket. The benefit of T20 obviously has been the results of Test cricket. It has positively benefited because there are more results coming in Test cricket, and the youngsters want to watch it because of those individual stars. They are following those names who are playing cricket.
Yeah. So it's a benefit for Test cricket, isn't it? Yeah. And
what it does is by bringing in the T20 cricket, especially new viewers, they then learn the romance of Test cricket. I truly believe that. I think
I hope so.
If we bring them in to start with through T20, then they go, once they learn the T20 game and they love that, they then start to look broader and they say, wow, look at this guy, Viv Richards. He was like that 30 years ago, 40 years ago. They start to see that. And the romance, especially in India, the amount of Indians that know more about the pre-1948 time than post is astounding. I remember there was a girl that was she was actually the media manager at one stage of India. And she was, this is about, I'm going to say 5, 6, 7 years ago. She was out here. Her name eludes me. I took her to Bradford Museum. She knew more about that period than any other period. I was dumbfounded. She knew a lot. And men, boys, young boys too, that know it. So that romance of Test cricket doesn't matter how it comes. If it comes through T20 back to Test cricket, well, great. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Because if you try to sell Test cricket, it may not necessarily grab a new person. They'll see it as long and boring. But they get through this shorter game, then they romantically get involved with cricket. They'll then look for more.
Actually, Naresh made the best point. Actually, no, I've got to be honest. I wish I'd said it. To be fair, it's the 2020 has brought Test cricket more exciting because there's more shots played, there's more runs scored than there ever used to be.
Absolutely.
And Test cricket, when I was growing up in the 70s and the 80s, could be a bit of a drudge, watching Boycott and Tavare bats and even Sunil. Can I say that? Can I say that without getting loads of abuse? Gavaskar could be a little bit turgid at times, couldn't he? Because that was the game in those days. You watch Test cricket now and you're regularly getting 300 plus runs in a day. But you're getting shots played, a lot more shots played. It's a more exciting game, and that's 2020 has done that. Without one day cricket, but 2020 has definitely done that without a doubt, which is great.
Let me just say something. Let me say something to you guys. I'm just letting you know that we are competing against live matches, games in Wimbledon, the actual England-Pakistan match, other matches. The reality is that. We're doing pretty well considering how many people are watching elsewhere.
No one's watching. It's just us, Norman. Us three talking to each other.
No. Trust me, in replay, this is watched immensely. We shouldn't discount it. Would you agree, Naresh? It's not just live. People go back and watch this. I've had many people comment.
That's me, Norman. I'm the one who keeps watching it. I think that every time you see an extra one go on that number, that's me replaying it again and again to try and get the numbers up.
Actually, do you realise once you've viewed it once, you no longer become a repeat viewer?
God, I could have saved myself hours.
I don't believe, unless you change computer platforms or logins or what have you, I think your one view is one person. Unless you've got some computer hacker that can do it some other way, and I'm afraid that there's one example of an Indian. There's a guy that has a YouTube channel here, an Indian background bloke, who had a video of Steve Waugh. Okay, he had 1,500 views. I thought, okay, but not one person liked it, and not one person commented. I thought, how could there be 1,500 people that hit that have viewed it but haven't hit a like button or commented? That's doctored. Do you understand what I mean? If someone's viewing it, they're going to like it, aren't they? A percentage will like it. Not all of them, but a percentage will. So it's rather, not one single person hit the like button. 1,500 viewers. That made it. It was pretty obvious to me. I looked at the channel. The average views was 10, 15, 20. So it was doctored, and that's really, and I hope YouTube are aware of that. I think they do go back and trawl and they check out things like this, but yeah, there are people that can doctor the numbers.
Norman, we've got someone watching called Sandeep Sharma, and he's put a question up there, and I think he'd like us to answer it. I hope he's a subscriber, Sandeep. I hope we're not talking to a guy who doesn't subscribe. I'm sure he does.
I'm pretty sure he's a subscriber.
It's quite an interesting point, actually. He's made the long question, Norman, not where it says you're right, because that's understood. No, we know you're always right.
Here. This one.
Yeah. I was going to say that Chris is an MCC playing member. An MCC, which is not the ECB, they're a completely separate setup. They promote cricket all around the world, and they tour at least 2 or 3 tours a year to up and coming nations to bring cricket over to hopefully develop the game in those countries. And Chris 2 years ago toured to Mexico and Costa Rica. It was just under 3 weeks tour. The MCC funds the whole thing. It didn't cost Chris a penny apart from a couple of meals. They even paid for the food and a balloon excursion. I think he did a balloon excursion. It was all paid for by the MCC. And within that,
did you say they paid for his airfares?
Yeah, they paid everything.
Wow.
Everything was paid for. And they played cricket in Mexico and in Costa Rica, but apart from that, they were coaching in the community, going out and meeting the youngsters and bringing the game to an up-and-coming country. And they do this all the time. Other friends of Chris have been up to other parts of the world. I think Oman was one of them. He said Oman. Did he say Oman on there? I'm pretty sure one of Chris' friends went to Oman to play as well. So they are bringing that cricket that is part of the MCC charter to do that.
That's fantastic. I'm very impressed with that. I mean, the SCG are nowhere near that, but they are doing some things which are similar. But we do travel. We pay. We don't get anyone paying for our trips. We pay for our own trips. But yeah, there's an element of that going on. But I think that I'm particularly interested in a country like Oman that's come out of nowhere and is now even holding West World Cup matches on their grounds. As I told you, I think a handful of years ago, they didn't have grass on their bloody grounds. It was rocks. I was there. I think it was 2016, I think it was. We're talking 5 years ago. I was there the day that I witnessed the point of laying their first grass. And the players were swimming in the grass like water because they were so impressed, having not played on a grass ground. Incredible. What a development process. And I think cricket's got a lot of potential to develop in areas we least expect. We might wane a bit with some of the existing countries. I mean, Australian cricket, there aren't as many people playing cricket as there used to be. Okay, we have to accept that. We have to go out to other countries and explore new horizons. And that's where the future of cricket's going to be. The USA is, to me, one of the most viable alternatives, even though everybody thinks, oh, nobody knows about cricket there. Well, clearly they do, because they're the second biggest audience in the world. And
it's expats in Australia, America.
They're Americans. They're Americans. They may have come from India or whatever, but they're Americans.
I think they've got cricket in Los Angeles. I stand to be corrected if I'm wrong. And I think they've got 3 teams in Los Angeles area that play, and they toured here because on Test Match Special a couple of years ago they had their representative chatting with Jonathan Agnew, if you obviously know who he is, and they were on tour from Los Angeles area, playing clubs in this country. Fantastic.
It's actually huge. It's huge in New York. It's huge in areas even as far north as Canada. It's big in Florida. Yeah, in California, as you said, Texas. It's actually quite extensive. It's anywhere where, again, I'll be honest with you, where Indians are, where Sri Lankans are, where Pakistanis are, where Australians are, where New Zealanders are. Florida is huge because of West Indies. It's heavily connected to the Caribbean. The American as I said, it's the second biggest audience in the world for cricket. And I don't care if anyone says to me, oh, they're expats. That's not relevant. There are people in that country that watch it. So the development there is essential. Now, both Sachin and Shane Warne had a very clever idea a few years ago. They put a tournament on, like a former IPL version, and played baseball stadiums. It went really well. Of course, the audiences were predominantly people from expat countries, yes. But a lot of Americans took notice of that. And
they had problems with the shape, didn't they, Norman, as much as anything? The wickets and the shape of the venues didn't suit cricket at all.
No, but that was a pretty good start, though. It was a pretty good start.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at is that I'm disappointed that it only happened that 1 year. It didn't happen. I don't believe it happened a second year. I don't know whether it did. I think it was pretty much a one-off, maybe a second year, but it didn't continue on, which is a real pity. Yeah, Hong Kong's obviously goodness. Hong Kong, Singapore.
It was because of the ground. They have committed they would make a proper cricket ground and rehold that kind of event every year. But it was a good start to push the game in the US. And I think UAE is one example on how cricket can be developed. The way UAE came up, today you have the headquarters there. The headquarters has an academy with two beautiful grounds, and then those three international grounds, including Sharjah. Oman is redeveloping because rather they have got the qualifiers which they're going to host. They're themselves going to play. So if crowd is permitted, you'll see crowd coming in for their own games. So I think these models, say for example, Qatar is building up for the FIFA World Cup. These are the models you can take where you want to develop the game, and US easily can just take from there and kind of make the game popular if the infrastructure is put in place. Yeah.
I mean, to me, and let's look away from that. Look to Peru, South American countries, which you and I wouldn't. There's a lot of African countries that have got cricket in there that we haven't really explored to the full extent. Obviously, Europe. There's a lot of countries and a lot of areas that there's a lot of development. Thailand, which is already big in women's cricket. They're huge. They make the top 10, 12 teams in women's cricket. So, look, there's a lot going on that's developing cricket wider than just simply Australia. And Uganda. I just saw Uganda's another one that's traditionally not. There's a huge league going on there. Bhutan. They are another country like Oman that suddenly have taken the king of Bhutan has taken a real interest in it. I think it's wonderful. It's got to be given credit that we have a lot of potential. We need to understand that. And I think when you mentioned the BCCI and ECB and Cricket Australia, we've got to realise that it's not just those three countries. We've got to start to figure out a way to show up that demand can come through. Afghanistan's the best example, and that's where the ICC, I think, are heading in the right direction. Again, they had some nincompoops in that organisation for a while as well. So did India, so did Australia, but we're slowly weeding those people out.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to mention names. I think we know who we're talking about. There were people in all of those places that had people that were questionable, that they're gone. They're either gone or they're going. I think they're gone.
AP Norman is right. Nepal is a big up and coming cricketer.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think they're a particularly big country. I'm going to be ever so rude here. I don't know a lot about Nepal as a country, but I heard one of their representatives talking and how well they're doing I think they nearly qualified for an ICC tournament. I think they were one game away. Did it?
Yeah, they were very close.
Yeah, I think did it rain or something, and they got done by in a last game. I think they were very close to qualifying for a major ICC tournament. So that's brilliant for Nepal.
They played the Asia Cup. The last Asia Cup they played, that was in UAE. So they played against India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. Nepal plays Asia Cup. They're part of the Asian Council.
And they're okay, aren't they? They're up and
coming. They're excellent. They're excellent. They're actually got a good female team too. But as a word of warning for places like Nepal and to a lesser extent Bangladesh, there are some, I hate to say this, don't take this personally, but there's some British guys that have floated into Nepal and Bangladesh and are con artists. They're actually predators as well. And I'm afraid I've come across them. They use the girls to do things which they shouldn't be done. There's a lot of very bad things that have gone on there. And that's the other danger, that we have all these people who claim that they're big deals in their own countries going to Nepal and going there, and they're actually misleading some of the girls. I don't know about men's cricket as much, but certainly women's cricket. There's two of them that in fact, there were three of them. One's an Australian, and there were two English and Australian people who've gone there claiming that they're big deals and have lured in, they've thrown a bit of money around and made it look like they're important, and all they're doing is actually using there's a danger of that as well in emerging countries. You've got to get the right people in there with credibility as well. And I'm afraid I've come across some that are dubious. And that's a little word of warning to some of those countries. But they are vulnerable people, especially women's cricket, and they look for some help. And if they've got the wrong person helping them who's not decent, it can be quite bad. And I've come across them, I'm afraid. And I'm afraid I know them all the whole structures in those countries too well. And those girls tell me, I've had a classic where a girl came to me to help support a tournament in Nepal. Then I realised it was actually the guy that was getting her to go to me to ask for money. And the money was not going to the tournament, it was going to the guy, and I don't know what else. And I smelled a rat. And the person actually came in on the chat line, and I thought, oh my God. And I've outed that person. I'm going to continue to out them because they're disgusting. Because they're taking on vulnerable people and they're either trying to make money or favours. I'm not going to say what sort of favours. It's disgusting. I'm afraid, it's common probably in every sport. It's not just cricket. All right.
It's
So
good to see.
Becomes popular. Yeah.
Sorry, carry on. No, I was going to say.
And I was saying, if
What do you-
something
what's
starts
the
getting
scope for
popular, it also gives the scope to exploit it. Because of the popularity, then it gets exploited also. So that's the wrong side to keep a watch on.
Yeah, and I'm somebody who has been very giving and have never wanted anything in return, and I see that happening, and it disgusts me. It absolutely disgusts me because it gives people a bad name that are involved that are doing a decent job. I'd love to mention one of the guys' names right here. I can tell you what his name is. Should I say it? Should I say out him?
Your channel, Norman.
No, I'm not going to, because I don't want to lower myself to that person's level. But he's diabolical. It's that bad that I heard from some very high level cricketers in their establishments that they go, oh, this guy can help you. And then I found out about him was a complete fraud. And it goes undetected because those countries don't take enough responsibility in their country. Do you understand? Like, the cricket boards are not overseeing what the girls are doing, and they get desperate because the cricket board of that country is not doing anything for them. They have to look elsewhere. And that's where the problem starts. Anyway. And it's I can imagine it could even reach into match fixing as well. That's not my thought process here. It's mainly around getting money, abusing the girls sexually, and the third thing is match fixing, which I'm not really aware of. The other two, I certainly have seen them in that mode. It's terrible. Kenya, for example, with men's cricket is interesting. They've always had a very good side. They've always been pretty much knocking on the door with Zimbabwe. That's a pity they haven't quite gone on further as well. But how much potential is there in Africa? Imagine if Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Namibia, who play cricket at a high level too, if they got into competing against South Africa, it would be quite interesting.
I think I heard something about the Kenyan cricket, that the funding had gone. There was a problem with the funding in Kenya, and the cricket had just basically gone completely to pot in that country because of that. I think I might be right in saying that. I was going to say, Norman, isn't it fantastic that AP Gunnar I think I've seen the name on here several times. He's in Nepal. You've got people watching all around the world, your channel here. It's not just India and Australia and England. We've got people in Nepal. Can I ask, if AP Gunnar is watching, can he just put something on the message there? What sort of league system do you have in Nepal? Do you have one main league, and how many teams will be competing in that? And what sort of period do you play? In England, we play from April to September every year. I didn't know how it would be in Nepal, how the seasons work out there. I'm ignorant, completely ignorant of cricket in that part of the world. I'd be fascinated to find out how it operates.
Well, they've got that one player that's played in the IPL. He's played in Australia. What's his name? It's Sanji Lamashane.
Sorry, Sandeep
Sandeep, that's
Limachin.
it. Yeah,
Sandeep, yeah.
actually, Michael Clark came across him, and Michael Clark brought him to Australia to the West Club, and that's a great story. As is Rashid from Afghanistan, of course, as well. That's another great story. Oh, look, it's amazing, Naresh. It's very impressive. Well, I've just lost Richard. I don't know whether he's not messaging me about any problems, but no, yeah. Sometimes the reception goes. But what we might do, Naresh, we might actually finish there. We've had a pretty good session in terms of time. Yeah. Oh, hang on, he's back. I thought if he wasn't. Oh, you're back. Okay, good.
Sorry about that. I got thrown out.
That's right. That's right. Tonight's turning out to be a night. What's the score with England and Pakistan? Quickly, what's the score there?
The score, England has just got to 200. They are 205 for 7. Luke, Gregory and Cass are doing the business. Both players on, well, I was going to say debut, but they played the other day, but they're the two of the new guns. Lewis Gregory is known as a county all-rounder. He's been a good player for a long time. Plays for Somerset. Bryden Cass is at Durham, but he's South African, I think. He's South African.
Surprise.
By birth. When they got Bryden, it sounds South African. But he's obviously qualified because he's playing for England. South African cricket, what are they doing? I'll tell you, they could put out a fantastic cricket team, couldn't they? Without the politics.
How about we get our viewers to write down the South African players playing around the world into one team currently? You got Conway. You've got there's a whole range of them that could be picked in a South African team. It probably would beat the existing South African team hands down.
Is Labuschagne? Where's he from, Norman? Is he South African? Labuschagne?
Marnus Labuschagne is South African, apparently.
I don't know. I'm not sure. He's certainly not Australian.
Wagner is South African.
Yeah, Wagner, Labuschagne, Conway. How many are in England? Shall we go through them there?
Well, they've got Dwayne Olivier playing county cricket because he couldn't play for South Africa. Well, he couldn't play here and play for South Africa because of the what do they call it? The system that allows them to play overseas. And we've got
what's the call as a term for it, isn't it?
Oh, God's sake! Yeah, I can't.
Just quickly, just return back to AP Gunn. You asked a question before. Reggie, what's the story there? He's answered.
Yeah, he said 6 teams in the EPL from 2028. It's new. So the EPL being the Premier League of some description, I assume, from 2018. Sorry, he's corrected himself lower down. So you've got six teams playing, and they play each other, I imagine, probably 3 times over the course of a season. I imagine that's how they work it. I imagine the cricket grounds in Nepal must be stunning.
Oh, they would be. They're like, it'd be monumental. But Nepal's got a women's side is very strong as well. They compete very heavily. They play a lot in Bangladesh and India and even Sri Lanka, I believe, and they've got a lot of depth in their women's side. And Bhutan, women's cricket percentage-wise, I think is well and truly outranking men's cricket worldwide in terms of growth, which is a great thing to see. And I think also in countries that men's cricket hasn't prospered, like in Thailand, women's cricket's much more prominent than men's. I would argue in Nepal, it'll be probably even keel. Bhutan is very even keel. Most of those other countries, both men and women's cricket is going up at the same rate of knots. I don't know about the USA. I can't comment on it, but it's still an amazing situation. It's quite impressive, actually. Sri Lankan women's cricket has potential if they've got the right people in charge. Yeah. Harshan Tilakarana and his wife are very, very good. Simon Willis, if he was on, would be telling about those two. But there's some others that are probably not. A former
How
coach.
does the women's cricket get funded in India and Australia? Because here it's done centrally by the ECB, and they put a lot of money into the women's team. They're all professionals now. They all get paid under contract. And there's the Sky TV in our country put on all the women's matches. They broadcast the whole Test match live against India, and the series against India, they've broadcast the whole thing live. I was going to say prime time, but on the main Sky channel. So the girls, should I call them girls? I don't know. I'll get told off. But the ladies are given a lot of access, and it's a big booming sport here. The girls playing cricket, young girls taking up cricket. It's fantastic.
I'd have to argue Australia is second to none. We've got really good. I mean, the Australian, Cricket New South Wales, from the women's perspective, I think Len Lease was the major sponsor. They had a specific relationship with women's cricket, and the girls' packages, the top players, is bordering on $200,000. It's becoming quite substantial. Okay, so they're really jumping through the roof in Australia. It certainly is a great scene in Australia as far as it getting equal billing. They got centrally run contracts, etc., etc. I think India is a central
contract here. For women's cricket is a central contract. Yeah.
But there was a problem with domestic circuit where they weren't paid though.
Yeah, there was.
Is it good money, Naresh? Did they get paid properly, or is it a bit low?
There is a disparity between the men and the women, but
there's a huge disparity. Yeah. There's a monumentally huge disparity.
From the amount perspective, but it is
a woman, except for some of them that are legendary, like your Mithali Raj and the like. They're getting paid pittance, to be honest. The women's cricketers in Sri Lanka get paid, if they're playing at the top level, $7,000 a year, which is rubbish. I can't even live off that. The Indian team, they weren't paid for over 12 months. Now, I'm sorry, it's not knocking India, but how could you not pay someone for 12 months?
Yeah.
Sri Lanka women don't get paid on a regular. They're meant to be paid every month. They get paid spasmodically. They're always chasing money. That's not professional. I'm sorry. It's disgraceful. Would you agree, Reg? It's not good when it happens.
Yeah, I mean, we it's just not that way here. As I say, the ECB pay the girls from the funds, and they're not on parity with the men, but they're not going to be. I think the centrally contracted England test players are on £500,000 a year on contract. That's without their performance related stuff. That's just their holding contract.
$500,000.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I
don't think it's that much. I don't think it's that much.
You'd be surprised, Norman.
Well, the Australian women are not getting paid more than a couple hundred, and that's not trying to say Australia's better than England. I'm not saying that, but
that's the men. That's the men, Norman. Sorry, that's the men.
Men. Oh, sorry, my apologies.
Yeah, but the women don't get anything like that. I think they might be on 70 or 80,000 a year as an England player, but crikey, that's on par with a county cricketer. Again, I'm guessing these figures from a little bit of knowledge, but Simon would know if he comes on again. I'm sure he would have more know of what the counties.
Well, I can tell you. Okay, the most dramatic thing for me is a woman cricketer, say from Sri Lanka, gets paid $7,000 a year, something pathetic, right? Can barely live on it. But when it comes to an ICC event, they'll get taken business class, or say in a 5-star hotel, get 5-star meals. That's brilliant. But they take virtually no money home with them. So they have this teasing lap of luxury for a few weeks in a great hotel, which they love, but that doesn't mean anything to them. If that makes any sense. They walk away with nothing. Can you imagine how frustrating it would be to be on a business class seat and a 5-star hotel, when if they'd be happy to stay in a normal hotel, go economy class, and as someone to pay them the difference would be doubling their overall yearly income.
Yeah, makes sense.
Just imagine how frustrating that must be. the South African women were getting paid 36,000. I think that may be the top players. I'm talking Australian dollars here, so whatever that is in your currencies. But they're getting paid 36, and then all of a sudden, as I said, they got paid $1,000 too much, and they went down to 12 because it was meant to be 24. They recouped the other 12. I mean, so it's how can you organise your life around that? I know that we must remember that women in sport were virtually amateurs, including men probably until very recently in terms of cricketing, cricketing history. But now that they're professionals, there's no excuses. That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, I
in India.
Yeah. I was just going to
So
say, I paid for
broadcasting and all
Shapali's. So I paid for Shapali's education to be a personal trainer. That didn't come out of anyone in Sri Lanka's money. It was out of my goodness of my heart. I'm not bragging. I'm just telling you how bad it is. Because if I didn't help her, no one would have.
Yeah.
She would have no career. She would have no career. Having played for the country for 16 years, would have been invited at no cost and not even told to transport herself to the damn event to go and have a trophy ceremony for someone else. They don't even pay for them to go to the bloody event. They get nothing at the event, and they've got no money. They've got no house. They've got no income. Isn't that disgraceful?
Yeah, it is disgraceful.
And she's one example of a lucky example because someone like me helped her. There are plenty in the team that don't get any help, or they may rely on their family.
So what's the answer, Norman? What we were saying,
the cricket board. The cricket board.
Do we have to? Yeah, the cricket board say they've got no money, whereas the BCCI, the ECB, and Cricket Australia have got all the money. Should there be a central reservoir above those three cricket boards where money's paid in, so the BCCI aren't so rich and the ECB aren't so rich, and that money is then channeled more fairly across world cricket, which would include into the ladies' team. I can't see that
perfect world. Yes, perfect world.
It's not going to happen.
No, but that money will go straight into the hands of someone who is unfortunately unscrupulous, and 90% of it's taken to the side and crumbs is thrown out. That's the problem. Is where that money that's beautifully collected then is distributed is where the problem is. There's your link, there's your danger, there's where the problem goes, and that's where the problem starts and finishing. Because there's plenty of people out there who probably want to help, like someone like me, who can help, but I can't help every player, and I can only help individuals based on who I'm in contact with. So it frustrates me because I'm throwing out my best money, and thankfully I know it's safe because I pay for that course. I don't give the girl cash. I pay for the course.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So if in some cases the Sri Lankan Cricket Board were to get a hold of that money, that would not go anywhere near her course. Does that make sense? So if I gave $7,000, let's say that's the figure, to the Sri Lankan Cricket Board to give to that girl to go to the course, it wouldn't get to her. Okay? So I have no choice but to go and just pay for it and say, right, what do you want to do? I'll pay for it, you go and do it. It's disgraceful, isn't it? And I'm talking with real examples here because, or I'll pay for their airfares to come out to Australia and play in Australia domestically, and then set it up with sponsors that will sponsor them and provide them with a job or money, and they go back with money. That's because I do it. And if I didn't do it, no one else will help them. And even Australia, there are examples that a certain team, which I'm not going to go into, where some of my girls have played, that have to give back their shirts at the end of the season. Their playing shirt. They have to give it back at the end of the season. Despite the fact that I spent thousands to get this girl to that team, they won't even let her keep the bloody shirt. That incensed me. I was fuming. They had the audacity to say, "Oh, I'll give back the shirt at the end of the season." I said, "This is an international player, and you won't even let her keep the bloody top that she's wearing? What are you going to give a hand-me-down to somebody else? Isn't that disgusting?"
It is, Norman, but what's the solution? Because
I don't know. I'm trying to work through that. I'm still struggling with that.
Well, the people at the
Of
top of
course
the
not.
game in Sri Lanka, where you're talking about, they're making the money. They're not gonna filter it down when they can filter it off the top.
No, it's true. It's a real frustration from my perspective when I see that happening. And then somebody will get jealous within that cricket board, seeing me help one of the girls, and they'll try and undermine me because they are either jealous or whatever. I don't know what it is. It's really sad. It's really it's beating your head against a brick wall. And I'm sure I'm not the only person that's in this situation. There are other people that are doing it as well, I'm sure, in various formats. But yeah, there's a distinct problem, and I don't have the answers to it, to be honest.
Yeah. How's the tennis going, Norman? Just as a matter of interest.
Actually, Barty's having some real problems. She won the first set easily. Now it's 6-all in the second. In fact, Pliskova was actually down 6-5-2 or something. She got back to 6-all, and at the moment, Pliskova is about to potentially win that second set.
She's won it, Norman. You're out of touch.
Well, so she's won it. Obviously, I'm getting a delayed broadcast, am I?
You must be. She must. Yeah. She won it on the tiebreak.
She's just won it now. I can just see she's won it.
Is this another great Australian choke, like last night?
Don't. Barty's not that sort of player. I don't think it's great. This girl's come back. It's quite incredible actually that she's done that. She was.
I mean,
really...
if Australia can't beat the West Indies over 50s in a 2020 game, there's no hope for the Australians, is there?
But didn't you say the Australians were also over 50? There are other players. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Well, that's Dan Christian. They only picked him so that he could have a chat with them about when they put their smoking jackets on at the end of the game and got their cigars out, and they could sit and talk about old times.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not as what's the word for it? I'm not as gung ho about Australian cricket as I used to be. I'll tell you, but about this woman winning the Wimbledon, I'm gung ho. I'll be very upset if she loses that because it's a great story.
Yeah.
Pliskova's about 7'5". It's a bit hard to even know what's going on.
How's the India-England ladies been broadcast in India, Naresh? Has they been broadcasting it in India?
The ladies tour, the England tour?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And it's got viewing figures?
Yes, it's quite popular, especially the white ball. Even the test match was very closely followed. But like last night, the T20 had very good viewership. Though it was a little late, I think it was the evening game in England. The second game tomorrow is, it's more a day game, which will be like a 7 p.m. for us here. So it's like watching the T20 and immediately moving on to the football game. So it's going to be a good Sunday. But yeah, women's cricket, because the entire broadcasting right goes as one from BCCI for women's, men's, domestic cricket. So there's good viewership for, and that's good. I think even the Indian women's side is getting a lot of excitement into the game. And I think since past 3-4 years, they've been doing well. They reached the finals of the 50 over game. Also, if you remember, the Lords was packed for the England-India final. Last year, Melbourne was full. Australia
85,000. Yeah, it's fantastic. I think the future of cricket will rely heavily on women's cricket growing. I really mean that quite seriously. I think it's a great thing. It's quite
interesting as well when you watch women's cricket, because it's the same game but a bit slower. You can see some of the skills a bit better, can't you?
Oh, you certainly can.
They certainly swing it a little bit more than the men because they're bowling a bit slower, and so you can actually watch the skills that they have.
They're purer cricketers, aren't they? The word is they're purer. Their batting strokes are generally the correct batting strokes. You don't see them improvise as wildly as what men do, and I think that's a good thing. It just shows to me the respect to their coaches are trying to give them good grounding in cricket. So
AP Gunner, Norman, AP Gunner needs to join us at the start of the show because we've already discussed the catch. So Mr. Gunner, please join us earlier if you want to hear us discuss things.
But it's not a bad thing to repeat a question because there might be other people as well. By the way. No, okay. So
it was.
So sorry, Naresh.
Yeah, and it was so disappointing that they had only one-off test match. This could have been a longer series of test match because it was a very interesting test, and India was playing after 7 years. So that these are the things that need to be looked at in women's cricket. Yeah, Test cricket has to grow also along with the importance of the overall women's cricket. So they could have easily played a three-match series. Just playing
Yeah,
one
it
off
comes
test.
down to money, doesn't it? And
Mm.
broadcasting. It's whether Sky would have been prepared to have broadcast a three-test series and given that much airtime and commitment, because they gave a lot of commitment. They put their full broadcasting
So
unit on
big
it. They had
Yeah, but let's be
Snicko and
honest. Let's remember this is a great step forward. They're playing
yeah,
a test
yeah.
match. They're
Well,
playing in Australia one match. It's a step-by-step approach. I respect that they didn't rampage and play more, but they will. But
yeah.
we've got to make it happen.
But
I still think
this
that when
has been run, Norman. This has been come from the ECB for this series, because this format we've had against Australia in the ladies' game, which has proved very popular,
like an
and the
Ashes,
ECB wanted to bring it forward to and bring India in for this one test, the T20s, sorry, the 50 overs and the T20s as a group. They're scoring it as an overall series, as a point scoring system. I
Yeah,
don't know if you're aware
multi-format
of that.
series they call it. Yeah.
It's a multi-format,
Yes. Yeah.
and they wanted to, because it went well with Australia. They want to bring it in, and I think South Africa have got a test. I think England are going to are playing a test in South Africa now this winter, and they are definitely trying to promote the test match for the women's game more,
oh, there's
because
no doubt. There's no doubt. There's a lot of effort
India
being
have
made.
played three tests in the last 16 years, haven't they? Is that right? Is it
Well,
only
Sri Lanka
three
Yeah.
played one
tests?
test match in women's cricket. One,
Who have?
one test match. Back, I think it was close to 20 years ago.
Who was that, Norman? Sorry.
Sri Lanka.
Oh, okay. Well, again, it comes down to money and it comes down to the broadcasters, because if there's no
Yeah,
people want to
if
watch
they're
it,
playing
they won't
ODIs and
broadcast it.
T20s, why can't they fit a test match in there? They're already in the country. The financials of being there extra few days to play a test match shouldn't be as big a problem.
It's money, Norman. They're relying on the broadcasters, aren't they? Because the
Well,
crowds aren't necessarily there.
the broadcasters weren't even involved in women's cricket up until only the last few years. So it really hasn't been a broad. There's plenty of women's cricket going without any television at all. In fact, there was no coverage of it. You only saw the results. There was a certain stage where that was the case. There may have been some footage, but it wouldn't have been like a broadcaster or such. So, in fact, I was involved with a guy called Yash Lahoti, who's got something called Crick Zone. It's a media company in India that only deals with women's Crick Zone. And he and I we actually approached the Sri Lankan Cricket Board to bid on the broadcasting of a Sri Lanka India series back 4 years ago. It was only going to be small money. And we went to the board and we talked to them, and they looked at us funny. Oh, what do you want to televise it for? No, they gave us a real runaround. We weren't making a profit. We just wanted them to do it, because at that stage there was no coverage. This is only 4 years ago, between Sri Lanka and India.
Yeah.
In Sri Lanka.
There was something quite funny happened in the test match, Norman. This is for people who love their cricket. In the India-England ladies test match, one of the Indian batsmen came in and played what us as club cricketers would say would be not our finest moment. She shoulders arms to a straight ball and was given out LBW. I don't know if you saw it or not. And she reviewed it. And it went to the TV umpire, who they always say, oh, let's have a look at the front on, please. And he came to front on, and then they always say, right, we'll have a look, and we'll have a go to Snicko. Well, the TV umpire was called Ian Gould, and he said, I don't think there's much bat in that one, because she shouldered arms. The bat was nowhere near it. So he said, I don't think we need to go to Snicko. There's not much chance of any bat in that one. Which was extreme.
Ian Gould is a character.
Ian Gould was a great character of the game. Yeah. So my prediction for England here might not be far away on the one-dayer. 232 for 8 with 5 overs to go. I think I said
It's
about.
gettable. It's
I said
gettable.
260 to 275. I think I said earlier on the messages. I might be a little bit short on that, but not too far. I think it'll be a good game for at 250.
Well, it's good. It's good to see. I'm glad it's going to be a bit of a game. It won't be so one-sided as what it was the first game. It should be a better game because I think Pakistan will bat better, having now had the bit of exposure. And again, it's Lords, which, as you said, is more of a leveler.
Yeah. On the questions, Norman, the last questions come in from Sumanath. I remember about 3 months ago that question coming up and Chris trying to put a sensible answer to it, and he was absolutely shot to pieces by whoever was on with him at the time, saying, that Ashwin is going to be there for the next 25 years and he's the best bowler in the world.
I was having a go at him as well. Huh?
Yeah, and Chris was trying to say that, the guy is probably 35 years old. He will not go on forever. And I think he's even indicated, I think I shall say that he has indicated that he's got other projects and other things that he wants to do with his life. He's a very intelligent man, I think, Ravi Ashwin.
He is.
And I think that it's a sensible question to ask who is in line to, because I don't think that the left armour looked that great. I know he did well in the winter, but I'm not sure about him as a long-term replacement of someone as good as Ravi Ashwin.
Who are you talking left arm? Are you talking about? Who are you talking
Akshar
about?
Patel. Akshar Patel.
Yeah. What do you think, Naresh? What's your thinking on the?
I think it will be a great achievement if he plays the entire cycle of the second championship. I doubt Ashwin would be there for the entire 2 years cycle. When he takes that decision to call a day, but yes, the replacement, the quicker Washington Sundar is groomed more and brought into the side, they may have to play both the off spinners together. That will be a very tough decision. But he's more a backup to Ashwin, Washington Sundar. Akshar Patel is more to a left arm Jadeja. Ashwin maybe just one more year of Test cricket, because he's not been considered for white ball at all now. So it's only Test cricket left in him. Yeah.
There's going to be a bit of a hole when he goes. There's going to be a bit of a hole when they go because he's been so successful, and you just can't replace him with someone immediately as successful. They're going to probably play around with a few players that are going to be in that position. I don't think it's going to be an automatic selection. Someone who's going to be in for a long-term position.
And currently, there is a concern when it comes to the spin department for India. Let's be very honest. Yuzvendra Chahal and Kuldeep Yadav were looked as those two are the future together as a combination, but they've lost way. Let's see, in Sri Lanka probably we may see them together in the ODIs, but you need a much more competitive opposition to test them. So spin is a bit of a concern currently for India in all formats, especially after
it's not
Ashwin.
a concern in terms of they've got lots of players that are potentially going to come through, but about someone in particular standing out is what you're saying. They've got plenty of players there.
Oh yeah, but Kuldeep, I don't rate Kuldeep not a test level. Chahal, I don't think test level. I think they're I mean, let's face it, people like Ashwin and even Nathan Lyon, they don't come around all the time, do they? These are good cricketers, That question you put on, Norman, that question you just put on, I think it's testament that we've just given a good 20 to 25 minutes discussion on women's cricket, which is great. In this country, they are advertising quite a big, the 100, which is coming up in 3 weeks' time. And every promo is men and the women. The men and the women are doing it. So the big women stars, the Heather Knights and the Tammy Beaumonts, are there sharing the stage equally with the men on all the promotional stuff that you see on it. They're giving massive amounts of due respect to the women's game in this country. They see it as a big thing.
absolutely. I mean, it's look, and I think I've made it pretty clear. I've been involved with women's cricket for about 7 years now, in a big way, and I have a lot to do with girls from Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, UAE, even Malaysia, South Africa. I've had a lot to do with a lot of girls that have come to me, and I haven't gone looking for them, and I'm glad that I've been involved. And I just I'm not worried about. I'm not really worried about. Oval Invincibles. That's who Shabnam Ismail plays for, by the way. I'm not really worried about what's happening with the teams so much. I'm more worried about transition post cricket. Like men have all these leagues they play in. They have commentary. They get endorsed pretty well. They generally do okay. Women have a huge cliff which they fall off. Okay, some of them make commentary, yes, but not one out of maybe 20 do. There's a lot of girls, especially in the lesser countries, have got no idea what they're going to do post-cricket. That's my focus and my thoughts is how to get girls to transition, not just to be all coaches, because they can't all be coaches, but transition to something which they want to do. It might be personal training. It might be, any number of other fields which they can connect onto and actually provide them with qualifications, which exist all over the world. That's what I'm more worried about, because once they finish, they barely scrape through their career, then they've got nothing after. They don't save any money. They don't build any assets. It just doesn't happen.
Some of the county cricketers have the same Norman here. They have how long's a county career? If you're lucky, you're going to come up for the junior ranks. You're going to get a contract maybe at 21 and play to your 32, 33 if you're pretty decent. And then what have they got? They've only ever played cricket going through. If they didn't concentrate on their education, then they're coming out of professional cricket, and they don't get paid fortunes to play in the county game. Believe me, you're not a millionaire playing county cricket in this country.
No.
So it's the same. We have Mel Jones here at the moment doing the ladies commentary and presenting for our cricket.
Yeah.
She's good.
But that's one person. I mean, there are some of the girls from countries like Sri Lanka or you name them, that where they can speak their native language on their own television, but that would be tokeners and they wouldn't be on for very long. They need to be able to speak very high English to be able to get any exposure on other platforms. And that's where the problem is, I think. Anyway, they won't all there'll be 1 out of 20, 30, 40 girls that get anywhere in that league, even in Australia for that matter. So, I think it's important they need to fight. They need to be given a curriculum of things they need to do, whether it's personal training, you name it. You can pick 10 careers where they can become qualified. And they're probably already qualified because they do it every day of the week. Personal training, they should be shoo-ins. The Australian Institute of Fitness is a course that I got, Certificate 3-4 we call it. It does cost money, but once they get it through, they are qualified to be a personal trainer anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
That's huge.
I imagine it's the same problem in India, Naresh, isn't it? It's exactly the same.
Yeah, there's a similar problem, yeah. So that's what the men's is. Everything is well settled, they get good, opportunities, because it's made very clear that the ex-cricketers would be part of the commentary panel. That's been very
at the
clear
highest level. Yes.
Yeah.
But not someone who's played necessarily, say, state cricket, which is also a pretty high level in most countries.
Not necessarily state cricket. But I think the plan of BCCI to quickly get the IPL in place, I think a 6-team women IPL would soon be a reality. That's be
fantastic.
Another. Yeah.
Well, how many IPL men's teams are there? 8. No. How many IPL men's teams are there?
Currently 8. It will go up to 10. I think next year it should go up to 10.
Well, then why isn't there exactly the same number of women's teams? Every
no,
IPL
come
team
on, it's financial, isn't it? There isn't the money in it there's not going to be the television desire to watch that. They're going to have to do it at a lesser start at a smaller level and see how it goes. This is all financial driven.
They can play the games before the big game. Can be the precursor to the big game.
Of course they can, but it's about whether the broadcasters are going to want to show it, and it's
Yeah, I
not
get
as
yeah.
popular. But they have tried.
Yeah, it can't.
They did a smaller version, didn't they, Naresh?
Yeah, they are
Yeah,
trying
three
small
teams.
version.
Yeah, three teams. In between when the IPL playoffs happen, they have three teams play against each other. So they have already tried and tested that. A lot
Yeah,
of
and it went well,
overseas
didn't it? I
players.
think it went well. I think it went well.
Yeah, they didn't have as many overseas girls as they would like, and there was certain. I'm sorry, there were political positionings there again. The girl that got taken for a Sri Lanka was one girl, and because she elbows everybody else out of the way, and she's politically connected to the board, so it's wrong. But yeah, it was a good start. It was a good start.
Yeah, yeah. You've got to go build it. You have to build it, and it can
it is
only.
getting somewhere. It is getting somewhere.
Yeah. But it can only be built from a desire to want to see it. If no one wants to watch it, it's not going to happen. No matter how much we would want it to happen, they're going to have
But it's
to.
the chicken before the egg. I mean, Australia have tried
Yeah.
that, and it worked. They took the risk.
Yeah.
They didn't wait for the audience to be there. They created it and made the audience come. So you're going to have to take a bit of a risk and put them out there to the Indian audience. And look, it's working. Indian people are warming to Indian women's cricket, aren't they, Naresh?
Yeah, that's happening. That's happening. Yeah, yeah.
A couple of years ago, no one would have watched women's cricket in India. No one wouldn't even give it a time of day.
With 100, Norman, as I said, they're broadcasting every women. The tournament is a women's game and a men's game at every venue every night, and they're broadcasting it all on television.
That's
I think
fantastic.
Sky are broadcasting the women's. The BBC probably wouldn't have the time to do that, but they're literally the whole brand new tournament is set up as a men's and a women's competition.
I mean, look, England's getting it right. Australia's pretty much got it right.
It's a massive commitment. That's a massive commitment for the ECB and the broadcaster. It really is.
But India are doing the same. India are starting the same. It's really happening in those three countries.
Yeah.
South Africa, it's starting to happen. Although the money's not yet there, but it's starting to happen. New Zealand's pretty strong.
You'd think, wouldn't you, going forward, that South Africa could produce a proper women's team, wouldn't you? They've got some ladies who would be powerful. I'm not trying to be rude, but there are some big African ladies who are going to be able to play cricket, I reckon.
Well, there's plenty of Anglo-Saxon South Africans too that are playing too. I mean, they got that Lisa Lee. She hits the ball bloody hard. She's as tough as nails.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Yeah. We've gone 2 hours and 12 minutes. I'm just worried there's a Wimbledon final coming to a close. What's the score with England and Pakistan?
2-4, 6 for 9.
5 for 9.
Yeah, we just got another run. Sorry, I'm on live. I'm watching it live, Naresh. Sorry.
I got a delayed telecast.
Yeah, you got a slight delay. It's right over the top. If you keep seeing me looking up, I'm literally, it's my television. I'm in my living room. 2-4, 6 for 9 with 13 balls to go. So we could get to 250. 250, 260 will be as predicted, yeah. Norman. I know the Vernon household is good at predictions, unlike yourself. Chris was right every game in the winter, I think, wasn't he? He had the whole thing right all winter.
I was right many occasions. Chris wouldn't admit to it, that's all. He would laugh, exactly, and that was well documented. We had Mervyn Richards and myself being very ready to talk. Okay, just I think Pakistan will actually get. I'm predicting Pakistan will win. Now, I said yesterday that Western could beat Australia, and you laughed at me. Well, I was right. Didn't I? You said Australia would win that, and they didn't.
I'm very surprised that the West Indies over 50s won. So that's all.
Yeah, but I think that Pakistan can win this on the basis of Babar Azam getting a big score.
Maybe
he could be.
On the question you just put up, isn't it? I find it amazing that the BCCI don't allow their cricketers to come over more and play in other countries and other conditions. I'm amazed.
Well, because they say, well, we're paying you $2.5 million to play for the IPL. We're going to control it.
if we have to continue doing well in Test cricket and even go on to win, it's time we relook at our plan on playing county cricket. Our older
I agree.
cricketers used to spend 2 months a year playing county. You have the Rahul Dravids and the Lakshmans and all. They played so much of county cricket in English conditions with the red ball. That needs to be relooked at. How much ever experience of Kohli, Pujara, Rane, they need to look at domestic red ball and county red ball.
Yeah.
No, it's
And the
going to be.
others who have been following.
They're going to have that. It'll be exposed in this series. I'm looking at this with great intrigue. This India-England series. There's no excuses. Both teams have to show their wares. They can't use any excuses, COVID or this player's out, this player's out. There's none of this. This is the time. If India can conquer England, then India, even though New Zealand have won the World Test Championship, I mean, if India beat England and go on to beat New Zealand at home, they're the World Test leaders. They have to be.
They won't win here this summer.
I don't know. I'm not being overly optimistic. I'm just being factual. But I think that if they fire, they should do very well.
I can't believe their preparation again, that they're not playing any that I can see proper warm-up games. They're not getting used to the conditions. Any preparation for the World Chess Championship.
Is that a COVID thing? Is it a COVID thing or is it a what?
I have no idea. They did no preparation for the World Test Championship final. New Zealand got it so right. They played 2 tests in this country before the final.
They didn't plan it that way. It just happened that way.
No, they all booked them in. They weren't due to be coming.
But I don't think New Zealand qualified when that was decided.
It came in the calendar late, Norman. So I've got a feeling that they thought that they might get there, and they booked them in. That wasn't in the test calendar for a long period of time. As far as I'm aware,
I was under the impression they didn't predict that. It just happened.
Normally, these things are on a 5-year cycle or certainly a long time cycle for future plans. And I'm pretty sure that those 2 tests with New Zealand were not in there, and that they put them in late.
All right. I mean, I'll stand corrected, but I thought they were.
You've got to give it to New Zealand for that. That's excellent planning. Really good.
We're going to come back tomorrow with the show because I think it's now reached the point where we started pretty late anyway. But thank you guys. Thanks, Naresh. Thanks, Reg, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is it coming home, Norman?
Well, we're gonna have a soccer or football roundup before.
I'm not sure I can. I'm invited out tomorrow lunchtime for a barbecue, which in our country means lots of alcohol.
We can always talk about it after if England win. If they don't win, we're not going to talk about it, are we?
It'll be late. I'm old. I have to get to bed. I need my beauty sleep.
But can you imagine if it's Italy win? I don't think Reggie going to come flying on here and say, "Oh, how great was it? Italy beat England."
No, I fully agree. I'm a completely rubbishy good loser. I'm not a good loser at all. You don't want to listen to me if England lose tomorrow night. I won't have anything good to say.
I tell you, I'm a bit nervous with Barty playing Pliskova at the moment. It's a bit too close. It looks like Barty is up 4-2 in the third set. Should win it, but this other girl's fighting like all hell.
Barty's got a serve here for 5-2 on her serve. She's going to go 5-2. Yeah, 5-2.
It's 30 all. It's 30
no, it's not. I'm telling you now, she's gone 5-2 up. You're on delay, Norman. You should be over here in England and watch it.
Don't spoil it, then. You're going to spoil
it. I'm going to sign off, guys.
That means she's virtually playing for the match, isn't she?
Thank you so much for having me on again, Norman.
You're actually watching it?
I'm moving to Wimbledon. I was watching the cricket. Now it's break in cricket. 2:47 all out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's put some volume up here.
So I was 13 short my prediction. So I apologise to everyone on not being quite accurate.
All right, guys. I'm gonna goodbye because I need to watch this. Or do you want me to watch it with you and watch the win and get all excited?
No. I'm happy to never watch an Australian win at anything. Thank you
All right,
so
guys.
much for having me, Naresh. Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure, guys.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Hey, guys.
Yeah, man.
Cheers.
Thank you,
So
Norman.
I
Bye-bye.
expect. I'll just quickly predictions. I'm predicting Pakistan might sneak in. Reg is saying England,
Yeah.
and Naresh, are you saying England?
I think Pakistan will take this game. 247.
Oh,
I
okay.
think they can win. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Naresh. Speak
Thank
to you
you.
soon. Thank you again.
Bye-bye. Yeah.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
It was wonderful to have Naresh and Reg on the show. Of course, Chris Vernon's father, Richard Vernon, Bandstand Boy, as he's known, and Naresh, who's Manaskani, has been fantastic. So thanks again, everyone. It's Norman Koshnik here. Do you want to watch with me the women's final? Okay, we can watch it if you want. Let's watch it. Hang on. I'm talking about the women's tennis, Wimbledon. Australia's Ash Barty is 5-2 up in the final set against Pliskova, who's from Czechoslovakia, I believe. Carolina Pliskova. But anyway, that's wonderful. I'm going to watch that, guys. So great to talk to you all. We'll talk again soon. This is Norman Koshnik. Don't forget to view, like, and share the post. Subscribe if you can. If you're not subscribing, it's something that I want you to do. It's very important to me that we do that. You can go to my Twitter and my Instagram handle at Norm Koch, and we can also interact there. So see you tomorrow. This is Norman Kochnik from Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnik.